Hi everybody! Welcome again to another Conversations in Wire. I'm your host, James Browning. I am a sales representative here for the Soft Flex company. We are a jewelry wire manufacturer. We're based out of Sonoma, California, and we do actually have a gallery, so if you're ever in our area, we would love to see you stop by. So today, we're going to work on another Kumihimo braid. So I'm using this square Kumihimo disc, and then we're going to be working on this braid, and I will show you this more up close in just a second. But I'm not actually going to make anything with this. We're just going to show you the technique, and then we can go from there. You can make it into whatever you want. I was thinking about using this to make a pendant as part of my wire wrapping. So if I do actually do that, I will try and post it on our Facebook group, which is the very important beader Facebook group, and you can find that in the links in the below description area. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today. So like I said, we're going to be working on some wire Kumihimo. Kumihimo is a braiding process, Japanese style, and generally it's used with cord or thread. Sarah Ayler, who is also one of our fellow co-workers here at SoftFlex, she loves to use the SoftFlex wire, as well as Kristen Fagan. She also loves to use a SoftFlex wire to do Kumihimo, but I prefer craft wire because it makes some really interesting things. So this is the braid that we're going to work on today. It's called the half round, I believe. And the reason that is because when you do this braid with cord, half of it is kind of flat on one side and the other half's raised. But with craft wire, both sides are kind of raised. I think that's just the nature of the beast. So let's see if we can get a nice up close of the braid. So the braid's going to look a little different. See, I kind of was tight down here at the bottom, and then I loosened it up a little bit down here. So the tension will change the look, so keep that in mind. And I'll go over some tips and tricks that I learned while I taught myself how to do this. So I'm going to use 22 gauge non-tarnished copper. This copper has always been my favorite to use when I'm learning new techniques and stuff. So if you are just starting out with Kumihimo, get yourself some copper wire. This is coated, so it's non-tarnished, but we do have a bare copper wire that's good for doing some patina work if you'd rather do that. But non-tarnished copper is perfect for this because it's inexpensive and easy to find. For tools, what we're going to need are some nylon jaw tools to help straighten your wire. We're going to need some cutters. And then I always just have a pair of pliers around. These are bent nose pliers to get into the little spots. And then either tape or a good clamp. You can use a ring clamp. This is a spring clamp that I got at the hardware store. It's really, really strong, so it's going to keep those wires right in place, but it's nylon covered, so it's not going to mar the wire. So actually, that's pretty much all we need for this project. So let's get started. I also have grabbed a piece of paper here, and I'm going to try and write down the steps as we go so that we can kind of see the end process. Now, our bead board, or our Kumihimo plate, is only 10 notches. There are others out there that are 12 notches, but we're only going to be using 4 notches on each side. So the cool thing about this board that we carry here at SoftFlex is that the top and the bottom kind of correspond. So we've got 1 and then we've got 11. So if you set your 4 like 4, 5, 6, 7, you know that the bottom are going to be 14, 15, 16, and 17. And the same on the other side, we've got capital D's, and across the way we have a lowercase d. So to keep them straight across from each other, you just have to remember to use the corresponding letter or number. So we're going to cut 8 lengths of wire. And the length is going to depend upon your project. I'm going to do like about 12 inches, somewhere around there. So then I just got to cut 12, or sorry, yeah, 8 of these, not 12, but 8. 12 inches, 8 pieces. This is the tedious part, getting ready. So I apologize for that. Let's see, 4. Here is 5. When you're cutting wire, it's good to make sure that all of your ends are matching up each time so that you get approximately the same size of wire. I've made the mistake of not checking my ends, and I ended up cutting something really short because one of my ends was poking out too long. So it was a tragedy. I had to cut it over. 6, 7. One more. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. All right, just gonna throw this back on here and get that out of the way. Now, when working in Kumihimo, it's kind of important, I think, because it makes your work finish better, to make sure that all of your wires are straight to begin with and then keep straightening them during the process. Because with Kumihimo especially, you're going to bend your wires a lot. And if you don't keep straightening them, you're going to get kinks in your weave, and then it's not going to lay right next to each other, and so it's going to start looking wrong. So take a moment, and I will show you multiple times in this how I take a moment and get that taken care of. But first, let's go ahead and just get these straightened out. And when you straighten your wires, the best thing to do is to straighten one side and then turn your wire 90 degrees and straighten the other. That way you hit basically all of the surface of the wire and get all of the different directions straightened out. Alright, so we have nice, neat wires now. And what I'm going to do is just take my clamp here. I'm going to flatten my wires out so that all of the wires are laying next to each other. Now, if you don't have a clamp, if you've got some really nice, strong tape, you can tape your ends together. But I tried to do this with masking tape the other day, and it did not work at all. So I suggest clamping. The wires stay where you put them. Okay. It also gives you a little weight when you're working too. So we want to work close to the clamp here, so we're going to bring it all the way up. In fact, if you want to, you can even squish it up into that hole there. Alright, now to set this up, it's really simple. I'm going to take the first 2 wires on the outside, and I'm going to put them on F and E. And then the next 2 are going to go up here to 6 and 5. And then I'm going to take the outside 2 and I'm going to put them on E and F. And then I'm going to take these last 2 and put them on 15 and 16. Okay? Alright. So, step 1 is to take the top 6 and move it across to the left G. So I'm writing this down right now. top 6 to left G. Okay, and then we take our top 5 and we move it to the right G. So top 5 to right G. Okay, now we're going to take our bottom 16 and we're going to go to the left D. And then our bottom 15 to the right D. Okay, so that was bottom 16 to left D, bottom 15 to right D. And that basically just mirrored what we did at the top. Okay, so now we're going to do this. We're going to move the sides now. So our left E is going to come down to our bottom 15. Okay, and what we want to do is achieve a tight weave. So we're going to kind of try and squish our wires in while we're working. Okay, and then our left F is going to come up to our top 5. Okay, so that was the left F comes down to the bottom 15, and then the left F, no, sorry, the left, so the first one is E, right? So we went E to 15, and then we went F to 5, okay? So we're kind of crisscrossing them. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to take our right E and go down to 16, and I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to kind of pull it in so that the weave comes in. Put it down at 16, and then we take the right F and we put it up at 16. Okay, so right E to bottom 16, and then right F to top 16. All right, this is the last step. We take our sides and we just move them in. Just like so. Okay? And then I just kind of squish these together a little. Okay. So that is basically, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That is 9 steps. Can we get this to focus down here? Maybe not. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this here for a second. So if you want to copy this down, you can take a screenshot, whatever you're doing, and just put this to the side for yourself. Okay, so let's see this in action a little bit better. So top 6 to left G, top 5 to right G, bottom 16 to the left D, bottom 15 to the right D. And then I'm going to come in here and kind of just tighten stuff up here. And it's good to try and fiddle with your wires between your steps because it's really hard to go back and fix it later. Okay, so then we go left E to the bottom 15, and then we go left E to the top 5, and then right E to the bottom 16, right F to the top 6, and then move your sides together. Okay, and then tighten up this area here. Just as an FYI, wire work is killer on your nails. I trashed mine last night working on this project. Okay, so once again, go there, and then over here, and then over here. So we're doing a lot of crisscrossing to get that weave to happen. And then we're bringing back our wires kind of back to the starting point. Okay. And then the more you do, the more this is going to drop down and you'll be able to see what your work looks like. The first couple of stitches are not going to be good because it's going to be hard to tighten that up. So if you don't want to worry about that, you don't have to. You can always clip it off, or you could hide it behind, they're called ribbon clasps or ribbon. They're these flat findings that basically fit over flat either wire work or ribbon, and you can clamp them and it'll look more finished that way. Okay, so top 6 to left G, top 5 to right G, bottom 16 to the left D, bottom 15 to the right D, and then go through, kind of fiddle it up there. Take your left E down to 15, take your left F up to 5, your right E down to 16, your right F up to 6, and squeeze it together. And move your sides together. Okay, now do you see how the wire is getting kind of warped? Because whenever time we take this and we move it and we put it back down, we're bending the wire. And because we are using that wire, those bends are going to be in different places every time. So your wire is going to look pretty gnarly after a few go-arounds. So let's finish this one up really quick, and then I will straighten these out so that they look nice again. The time that you want to straighten, see how the close to the braid is still not bumpy or warped at all? When those bumps up here start to get closer, that's when you want to do the straightening. So we have a little room. So let's do another run. Kumihimo is fun because you can actually do this, for the most part, watching TV or something. If you're new at it, maybe not watching TV, but definitely like listening to an audiobook or something, because you don't really need to listen, or you don't need to recite your steps in your head once you get the finger movements down, I think, personally. Maybe that's just me. Now, the hard part, though, is if for some odd reason you put your project down and you snap these out, like if you take your project off the board for some reason, you're going to find that it's hard to reset up. So, what did I do? Oh, if I was going to end my project before I was finished, I would suggest taping these to the board, or at least putting a piece of tape across the wires so that it keeps the wires themselves together. Because you know, this cross shape is how you set it up. This is your starting point. So 2 up, 2 down, 2 over, 2 sides. And you know that your work is going to be flat. So the flat side will match this opening. So that means if this was to fall off, each of these on the flat side would go on the sides, and then the two on the, I think you'd be able to see it if you saw it come off. But that's my suggestion. If you end this before finishing, put some tape across your wires so that just in case it does get fouled out or pulled out, you have the ability to put it back in. Let's do one more here. Working with wire Kumihimo, tension is really important, so make sure that you're taking the time to fix your wires between each step. Otherwise, it's just not going to look as good as you want it to. And as I always say, take your time. I mean, unless you're trying to make 8,000 of these in 2 weeks, there's no reason to go fast. This is supposed to be enjoyable, so take your time. Okay, so now we've got some really wobbly wires. So what I'm going to do is I've got my nylon jaw tools and I'm going to take one wire out at a time. Make sure that you end at the beginning point, so where the cross is, not where you have 4 on each side or like in the middle where you're trying to cross all your wires over. Make this easy on yourself and finish your rotation before you try and move your wires around. And remember, straightening your wires does work hard in it. So if you decide to go down to a smaller gauge wire, don't straighten your wires too much, just when it's absolutely necessary, because the more you bend a wire, especially the thinner ones, the more apt that they will break on you and they'll snap where the bend is. So just keep that in mind. Don't make sharp bends when you're putting them in the foam of the Kumihimo plate. Just kind of set them in. There's no need to bend them around. So let's say we're taking our top 6, we're going over to G. I'm just kind of placing it in the crease there. I'm not creating a big bend. So top 5 over to right G, and then we go bottom 16 over to D, bottom 15 over to D, and then straighten up our wires. Okay, and then E down to 15, F up to 5, E down to 16, F up to 6. And then push those together. And see, it's starting to come out. Now when I started, see how it's kind of wonky here? The braid is really loose. That's because I didn't have room to get those tight. So you're going to see that a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and work a little bit more on this and then try and get some length. And then I'm going to take this off and show you how I marked my place. So let's finish our rotation, move our sides back. Okay, there we go. Gotta practice what I preach, right? All right. So this is our end point, and I'm going to stop here, and I'm just going to continue making some more, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I have taken my braid out of the thing, and before I did, I put tape on the ends here. This is kind of what I was talking about. And I kind of squished it a little just to show you how crazy it can look with the wires. So this is really important. If you lose your place, or if you have to take this off for another project, tape your ends together, because see how we have like the wide side and then the flat side, right? So the wide side is going to match up here. So I'm going to thread these back through here. Okay, so here's our flat side. And it's not cooperating because my clamp will not stay straight. But here is where my tape will help me reposition. So I've got two here, and I've got two here, and these are coming out the top and the bottom, so that's good. And then we've got two here and two here. And they should not be crossed. They should all be flat. Okay, so there's no crossing. And then I just take them and I put them, here's one in F, here's one in E. And then 6 and 5, E and F, and then 15 and 16. See, so now we're back and you can take the tape off. I kind of would advise not using masking tape for two reasons. First reason, because it's really sticky. And so it's going to leave a residue on your wire. And secondly, because it's so sticky, it's going to be hard to get back off. Painter's tape, blue tape, is really good to use because it is still strong and it sticks to itself really good, but it doesn't really stick to other things very well. Well, I mean, what I should say is it sticks to stuff, but it doesn't leave a residue. That's why it's called painter's tape or artist tape, because when you peel it back up, it comes off easy and doesn't leave a residue. Goodness. This is really good masking tape. This was just on there for a little bit. Okay. Thanks for sticking with me through this sticky situation. Okay, almost. So we got 6 out of 8 done. Now, if you do end up with sticky residue, rubbing alcohol, denatured alcohol works really pretty good for taking sticky stuff off and not compromising like the wire in any way. Okay, so now we are back, and look how wrinkly that wire is. But let's see, this is what it looks like when you're working it. Now, like I said, you could use this to make a bracelet. You could use it for a necklace or choker. There's so many different things that you can use this for. This is just going to be a technique video though. So what I want you to take away from this is how to get this braid, how to set it up, how to restart it if it gets lost, and then finishing it is just going to basically depend on what you're going to do with it. So what I try to do is get as much of my wire used up as I can, and then trim those ends. And I kind of did it with this one, but this was really just an example piece. But you can take your ends, you cut them off short and kind of bend them, and then you've got like a little row of bent kind of curls or loops, and then you can take that and make it into a bangle with those ends. So because the wire is pretty stiff, so it'll stay where you put it for the most part. But as long as you make those loops nice and complete and check for the pokey outy bits, it would be a comfortable bangle, really. And what I've seen is I've seen multiple wire Kumihimo braids, like different ones, like this one. I actually played with this the other night. So you could take this and like bend these together so that they're part of a stack bracelet. So there's lots of different textures. And I think once we've learned a couple more simple braids, we'll start working with multiple, because there are 3 wires in each. So there are 12 wires that we're working with, right? So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. No, there are 18 wires. There are 18 wires that you're working with for this bracelet. So we're going to wait on that one a little bit. We'll come back to that after we've done a couple more braids, and then we'll try that one. But I just wanted to show you that this is another Kumihimo braid that you can do, but if you wanted to, you can stack different styles. That's what the purpose of having this together was. So keep that in mind when you're making your projects. Really, that's all there is to this video today, so it's kind of short, and I really appreciate you guys coming along. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave something in the comments for me. If you've ever tried Kumihimo before, leave me a comment telling me when you started using Kumihimo, or if you have a favorite braid that maybe I can look up and try. I would love to hear from you. Also, go ahead and click that like button if you liked my video, and hit the little bell icon in the upper right hand corner so that you get notifications every time a new video comes out. Our website, www.softflex.com, is going to be listed down in the description there, along with all of the tools that I used here today, except for the clamp that I just got at a regular hardware store, so we don't sell those, unfortunately. But the plate, the wire, the tools, we definitely do. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to hanging out with you again. All right, happy beading. Bye-bye.